that we have in our country, or even we've had, gives ourselves, or rather give ourselves the opportunity for periodic review of the education system. And that is why previously we have what was called the old system of education, where people talked about Form 5 and Form 6, A-level. I mean, some of us would hear that, and probably our pioneers are the ones who went through such kind of education. And then there came the 844, which I think most of us also experienced that, if not all, where when that task force was put in place to relook at the education system, and I think the product was this competence-based curriculum, they found out that the 844 system had mutated and became a teacher-centered education system, where the teacher had more power to shape the mind of the learner to pass exam. It was exam oriented. Just, beg this person to achieve this goal, and this is the first and this is the last. And I think even it culminated into problems where schools were competing negatively, that if you are not on top 10 in the country, that is a bad school. If you are not in, let's say, a grade B or C plus and above, you are a very useless person in the society. So CBC was founded from under the doctrines of the individuals are talented differently. That let's have an education system that it is the learner-centered. The learner has, the space to identify his or her talents, working together between the teacher and the parent. And one of the cornerstone of that is the establishment that there was erosion of values and laws of ethos of our country. And that is why CBC talks about inculcation of values and ethos as these children are taught in schools. And I think there was also abolishment of competition, of let's say grading of learners from number one to the last. In fact, they discourage that kind of practice at the learning level. And allow me disclose that I am a parent of the junior secondary school. So I can tell you from a practical experience, when even when it started, I think it's about now 7 years, once the pioneer class was in grade 3, so they were converted from class 2. When they reached class 3, they refrained from calling class 3 and they called it grade 3. Now we are in grade 7, which is the junior secondary school. At first, we were told that these children, when they finish grade 6, they will sit, they first sat their national exam in grade 3. It was called the early grade, going now to the middle level. And it was a national exam. And then in grade 6, they also sat for an exam, but now it was on a transition period. The previous regime had prepared as parents and the learners that these children will be transitioning to secondary schools, the existing secondary schools that we have now in our country. So we made choices from national level, extra county, the county schools, and these other schools that are there in our society. So you see, but when this other regime came, they said, we are putting together what is called the Presidential Working Party, which we are all aware of that. It has never produced a report. We've never seen their work. I think there was a season when they went around the country and showed us on TV stations that they were talking to Kenyans and they were calling it public participation. To date, we've not, in fact, their tenure expired. The president renewed it for another 2 months or 3 months. They have never produced the report, so we don't know. And then there was a directive, I think it was even a verbal directive, that these children would remain in their current schools. Now, you ask it, what are the challenges? Number one, I don't think, even in as much as the constitutional order provides for review of education system, it also puts a caveat that it should never be disruptive. It should never frustrate the space of the learner in terms of access and enjoyment of learning in these institutions, whether it's human resource, capital resources, or even the spaces in terms of infrastructure. So what has happened is that when these learners were directed to remain in the primary schools, it created some level of confusion because there were promises which were made in January 2023 and they have never been fulfilled. Number one is the capitation of 15,000 Kenya shillings per child in all the schools, and these are public schools. That money has not reached, and I think our preliminary findings shows that, and that was as per this week, shows that that money has not reached the schools. These children were also to be given new school uniforms. I mean, that was the directive of government. But when parents say this is not tenable, we were not prepared to buy new school uniforms because we were not told. Then it's like, now you can take your time, you will implement that as time goes by. The junior secondary school are supposed to have their own independent committee from the primary school committee. That is the management committee of the schools. And this is a formulation. Then the government were also to recruit 36,000 teachers, and 30,000 were to be specifically deployed to the public primary school, one per public school. Those teachers were recruited in December. January came in, February came in, they have not arrived. I'm told as per this week, one teacher has arrived in a school, but is able to teach one out of the 14 subjects that are supposed to be taught in junior secondary school. So you see the quagmire, there is confusion. And for me, I'm so worried because our children are used as an experiment. An experiment in the sense that even parents have been loud enough to say, why don't we transition these children to go to the current class 8 as the government prepares to implement junior secondary education. And I would be so much delighted to have the Ministry of Education guys. I'm told they came here in the morning. I don't know whether they were avoiding us because the cabinet secretary sent a speech which has also been given to us. I've read through the speech from the cover page to the last one, and it's very interesting that we were going also to challenge that. I think also a member of parliament was supposed to be part of this panel. We were also going to call parliament to account because they represent, they legislate, and they oversight government programs in terms of implementation. And I welcome you to ask all the sorts of difficult questions. Some of us, I know we are not new in the public space championing for accessible education in our country. We've spoken on TV station, we've called the government to order, and we've asked them, please, tell us, this is our taxpayers' money. So what happens now in terms of news that we get from government? The control of budget is coming without being ashamed that through a WhatsApp in 26 minutes, I approved this 15 billion shillings, and it went just like that. Then when the cry is there is no money to facilitate our children and we are taxpayers, then what are we talking about in our country? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that impassioned remarks, Joshua. I think let's move on to Melvin. Where are the young people? What is our role? What is the role of young people speaking on these issues presently?
Thank you. I think, first of all, the young people are everywhere in this country, but we get ambushed all the time. And sometimes when you're given spaces and you're told that come air what you think, send your opinions, or this is a public participation space, it's done as a formality. They come, they collect your views or opinions or what you have to say, but when a report comes out, it's totally different. For example, during the presidential working party, the one he's talking about whether he saw or he didn't see, I was there at the University of Nairobi, Taifa Hall. And I remember we were so many people. And we gave, even at the university level, we gave so many recommendations and opinions, be it in CBC or public university fundings and etc. But even when their interim report came out, that which they called interim report, we didn't see anything that was said by the public. It just came as, I think it's sometimes these committees are put there and they're told, no matter what they say, this is the outcome that we want. And so even when they come to us, we think it's a formality, and that's why the young people don't want to show up anymore. The same way they ghosted the elections, they want to ghost even these things, because we cannot see where we are headed. But we want to be involved. And I think I want to encourage my fellow young people, let's not give up. Because if we give up, we tell them that it's okay. You can go ahead and molest us, you can go ahead and molest the constitution, you can go ahead and do this. And when we have fellow young people, let's say student leaders come out and want to speak, let's not tell them that government ni mbaya. Because I remember we had such an incident in October, and on social media all I got was, you will be killed, young lady, you will be done this, they are going to look for you and they will finish you. And you see, now we fear that. But if you stand with us when we speak, regardless of which government side or which political party you supported, then we'll also have the strength and to continue. So this is our government. We shouldn't, it's not a shareholder. I do not agree with that part. It's for stakeholders, and we are the majority. As they said, being a citizen is the most powerful part of all this. And these are our spaces. I do not know why these people feel like when you elect them and you give them even the taxpayers' money to have security details, that they can threaten you or they can just do what they want. We are a democratic country. It's supposed to be government for the people and by the people. It's not a government that a few people sit and decide that this is how we go. But the young people are here. We're just tired of being taken for granted.
Thank you, Melvin. And I think that's a good point. I will come back to our audience. She has said that we were there, we participated. How many of us had a conversation, were part of those conversations on CBC? Huh? I think I see 4 hands. How many of us have been part of any conversation when it comes to policy making or public participation? By a show of hands. Not everybody's hand is up. Look at your neighbor if their hand is up. And it's not a crime at this point, not yet. But there's something that I want us to find out. How many of us have challenged when we know we have given recommendations collectively and we have not seen the recommendations being implemented? Challenged. I see 1 hand, 2 hands at the back, 3 hands. But how many are we though? Is it enough? Please give me your name. Wesley. Is it enough for Wesley to go and challenge Akiwa tu peke yake? Or Melvin? Is it enough? No, but it's true. But is it enough for you to stand by yourself?